And Perry, today is Tuesday, October the 20th, and we are in room 1010 in City Hall, and it's a little bit after 9 a.m. in the morning. Before we get started, let's run through the agenda. Mr. CLA, would you let me know whether there's any consent items?
Actually, Madam Chair, we'd like to recommend for consent item number 1, which has to do with a Bishop lease agreement between Department of Water and Power and City of Bishop. We have a letter from the City of Bishop as well.
Okay.
We could hold that until you have a quorum.
All righty. I'm assuming that Mr. Pucci doesn't have any objection to having this go on consent?
Not at all.
Okay, great. Okay. Any other items for consent?
Also, item number 2, DWP report relative to the execution of 3 fiber optic lease agreements with CBS Corporation.
All right, we don't have any cards on that one. All right, put that on consent.
Okay.
That leaves us with...
3, 4, 5, and 6.
All right, why don't we start with number 3? And we have one card on number 3, and that would be Dr. Clyde Williams. Dr. Williams, why don't you come up now? And then we'll get a report from staff.
Item number 3, the bond issue for power. Where's the Ecaf? What is the status of the Ecaf? And it was indicated that without the Ecaf, the AA bond rating might be in jeopardy. So here we go again. $1.57 billion. It's quite a bit of money, quite a bit in this special economic conditions. I recognize that they need money because they are going to start doing things like changing from coal to geothermal. So my concern is no overall package, nothing available for the general public to understand how this bond issue refers to the, I'm almost finished. So, how this bond issue relates to the Ecaf, and if they can go forward with this sort of bond issue without the Ecaf in place, or the revised Ecaf in place, what's the change? What happened? Are we not going to have AA bond ratings? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. All right, can we get staff to come up to the table, make a report?
Good morning. I'm Jeff Peltola, Chief Financial Officer for the department. These bond resolutions, once every 2 years, the department seeks approval for both the water and power initial bond resolutions from the board and from the city council. Resolution 4810 is for the power, 4811 is for the water. These establish the maximum limit of principal debt that can be issued by each system over the next 2 fiscal years. These are consistent with the 5-year financial plan that we presented at the budget. So each of these resolutions is consistent with that. These initial resolutions also establish a maximum term, which is 45 years. We're planning on 30 years. And the interest rate, which is state law, 12%, and we're going to be far below that. The resolution 4810 is requesting authorization to issue debt obligations up to a maximum of $1.57 billion in the next 2 years to finance roughly 74% of our capital program for the power system. 4811 is up to a maximum of $980 million in the next 2 years to finance the same period, approximately 84% of our capital improvement for the water system. If you remember, one of our financial metrics is that we want to finance in total no greater than 60% from debt of our overall capital structure. Both initial resolutions provide private sale bonds to one or more firms selected by the Board of Water and Power Commissioners pursuant to the procedural ordinance of last year. And most recently, highly rated municipal bonds like DWP have seen the lowest rates in years. We also anticipate issuing Build America bonds, which are issued through the taxable but is part of the Stimulus Act, and we anticipate that at roughly about, I think, 100 basis points lower than what we think from the tax exempt. Those are generally used for over 10 years.
Okay.
So all of this, again, is very consistent with our financial plan.
All right, why don't we go to you next?
Sorry.
What, you want to make a report?
No.
Okay, where are you from? Which department?
Oh, I'm from Water and Power.
Yeah, I'm sorry. With me is Mario Ignacio. He's the Assistant CFO, Head of Finance. Aaron Benjamin, who is Head of our Power System.
Okay.
Olivia
Yeah.
Sevis, Val Lunga from the CAO's office. The only thing I'd like to add is our department clarified with the Department of Water and Power that this is an overall authority for the bonds, and they understand that the renewable portfolio standard is being reviewed by the third party, and should the council say that that program should be slowed down, that portion of the bonds meant for that program would also slow down. So this is just an overall maximum authority.
Overall what? I can't hear you.
Overall maximum authority for the bonds, but should the council say we need to slow down that program, that portion of the bonds that is for the renewable portfolio construction capital program, that would slow down.
Okay, we have a new person at the table, and while he's getting ready to speak, Mr. Horetz has joined us.
Yeah, my name is Jim McDaniel. I'm the Senior Assistant General Manager for Water.
Okay, did you want to make a report?
No, I'm just here to answer questions about
Okay,
capital program.
all right.
for water system.
Will there be any intermingling of these funds with ECAF funds to support the infrastructure?
The ECAF, on the power side, some of the work that we're doing is going to be related to Ecaf Expenditures. And it all ties in, again, in the overall financial plan and how we're going to use that cash.
Now, tell me about the Ecap expenditures that you contemplate.
Most of the ECAF, again, which we've gone over, is about $1.9 billion going forward. Many of those projects that we have that we are not doing through SCAPA, these bond issues have nothing to do with SCAPA, are going to be funded from the bonds. But most of these bonds are tied to our infrastructure on the power side.
Now, it's my understanding that ECAF funds are solely used for fuel sources. Is that correct?
No, ECAF also has any of the renewable generation sources. So to the extent similar to like Pine Tree, we're using Pine Tree, we bond fund Pine Tree, and then the debt service of that going forward is recovered through the ECAF.
So the ECAF functions as the pass-through?
It's the pass-through. Again, we use these bonds, and Pine Tree is the best example. We use the bonds to fund Pine Tree. We build the wind generation source, and then the debt service of that going forward we capture over the 30 years, and that's part of the ECAF.
So then ECAP acts as the receiver of the recapture? Put it in layperson's terms.
In layperson's term, it's if you buy your house, let's just say you get a mortgage for the house and you're going to have to make that monthly payment. That monthly payment for the wind generation farm is what's recovered through ECAF.
And, for example, CAO raised an interesting issue. What if the council does decide to roll back on its RPS timeline, and then we don't recapture as quickly as we had anticipated through the ECAF? And then what does that do to the ECAF? Does that trigger then the department coming in and asking for an adjustment?
Right. Again,
In the theoretical.
Right, the theoretical.
Speaking.
Under the recent, we asked for the ECAF adjustment. It was sent back under the 245 process. We're looking at reshaping that. We're doing a number of different things under the direction of our new general manager. And when we come back with that, we'll be able to really give you what the changes are. This gives us the authorization to issue those bonds. How that all ties in and what the numbers are, I mean, that's where it's all going to be based on that debt service coverage of 225 on the power side and those financial metrics that we talked about.
Okay, so Mr. General Manager, you hear what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, because, you see, good, very good. Yeah, we may be going down a road again where then we might trigger another request for an adjustment on an ECAF if we in time realize that we're maybe not going to keep pace with our RPS objective and timeline, and then supposing the council comes back, theoretically speaking, and says, let's roll back on this or dial back a bit, and then we will have created a shortfall.
Yes, ma'am. I just acknowledge publicly that I heard you the first time.
Yeah.
We're in the process of trimming the Ecap request and coming back to you with something that I hope that the committee and the council will recognize is really needed and reflects the idea that, if I can put it this way, that we pause a moment and absorb what we have accomplished and slow the pace at which the race needs to go up.
Okay. See, this one gives me a little pause. You know, we got 4 folks up here from DWP, and I'm not really sure if this is a good idea or a bad idea, because, you know, I'm not sure if I'm just jumping off the cliff again and putting yet another piece in the pot to cause us to make an argument to have an adjustment down the road. So,
If I can say this.
why don't you come up here?
If you got your foot on the brake, we can't spend this money until the committee and the council approves an ECAP request, and I've withdrawn the request that, in a sense, you've turned down, and we are in a chopping mode down there, and hope to come back to you with a very trimmed down proposal that will reflect the guidance that I heard from the city council. And Mr. Koretz and you gave us some very good advice, and it's just going to be another week or 10 days, and we'll come back. We'll need bonds in any event, and this.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to make the logic fit and the pieces fit, because I'm tired of doing this in a patchwork quilt, and trying to make it flow in all together. Mr. CLA, did you have a comment?
Yeah, simply that most of this bond request is factored based on the base rate increases that were approved by the council, I believe, 2 years ago. The 3% during a 3-year period. There is a component of it that is ECAF backed. We've checked the CAO's office is correct, so to proceed with this proposal at this point would be okay, would be prudent. What we could have them do is report back on a regular basis on the ECAF costs, and as well, the CAO's included in their report a regular review of the RPS program and the status of the RPS and the cost to the city, given the fact that the RPS is at 18% right now of the 20%.
What do you think would be a reasonable time frame to have them come back and report?
The CAO recommended 30 days, and then thereafter every 90 days. I think that would be wise.
How about 30 days and then thereafter every 60 days?
That's fine.
Did you want to ask any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. I think I beat it to death. Just a little left. Okay, all right. Let's follow that advice, and we'll see you back here in 30 days. Don't go too far.
I'm just staying put.
Just stay here.
Yeah, you just stay there.
Item number 4.
Okay, let's say, Dr. Williams, come on up here.
No.
Speak your piece.
Measure B? I thought we...
Speaking to the mic.
Okay. Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Water. The recycling is a major part of the future program of the water side of DWP. One of the problems is that it costs a lot of money. One of the problems also is that the MWD is also looking at it, and I'm trying to get some sort of relationship as to how the MWD's efforts, DWP's efforts contribute into the cost of the water and the bond issue that's being requested. Granted that, yes, we need water. Where it comes from is a very important thing, and are we going to be willing and able to pay for the bond issue? And question as to the rating also of the bond issue. So more documentation in the files would be a lot easier than asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, everybody come back now. Okay. Okay, who's reporting?
Well, I think most of this I covered in the initial. This is Resolution 4811 on the water. And when we look at our capital that we're spending on the water, 90% of it is really two main things over the 5-year period. One is infrastructure, and the other one is water quality. We've talked about that covers 90%. These bonds are to fund both of those things.
Okay, the total amount of the bond issuance for the Water Capital System Program. What is it?
Where's that number, Mario? Yeah, for 2 years, the capital budget for the water system is $1.1 billion.
And how's it going to be paid off over the 30-year term?
I mean, that's part of why we're structuring these bonds for putting in all of this infrastructure that's going to last the 30 years. It's going to be paid as the debt service, and we maintain that 2.0 debt service coverage on the water side.
So the issuance includes a one-time cost of $7.8 million for bond insurance, I believe an underwriter's discount, bond counsel, and rating agencies' fees. Is this amount standard to the industry for this size of a bond?
Yes.
And how do you know that the department is getting a competitive rate?
Well, when we price, we have the financial advisors with us when we price the bonds, and subsequently we compare. Well, prior to the pricing, we look at market for comparables, and we made sure that the rates that we provide to the market are competitive rates.
And who ultimately makes that decision that you've gotten a competitive rate? Do you take it to your commission, or does someone sign off on that?
Currently, there's a post-pricing sales summary that the underwriters who were appointed to price the bonds, they provide that information to the department, and it stays, it's with the department, and the financial advisor looks at them as well.
But we haven't answered the chair's question. Who does the commission or the general manager? I'm new here, but I need to find out too.
Yeah, be good. Why don't you tell your boss? Yeah.
Who
See, you got a little internal. You need some internal checks and balances.
Yeah.
Who certifies that you've gotten a competitive rate? Thank you, Mr. Freeman. You can come sit over here.
Well, it is submitted to the chief financial officer, and the chief financial officer can discuss that with the general manager, and if it needs to be sent to the board.
Okay, well, let me make a recommendation to you, and you know, I can do a motion on it, because, you know, I'm trying to help you close the gaps in your logic, and we'll talk to Mr. Freeman and Mr. CLA. Why don't we talk to Mr. Freeman and these gentlemen and work with my office to devise a motion that requires some third-party certification that the Department of Water and Power has gotten a competitive rate on this issue, okay? Okay, because I think we got a gap here. All right, so let's work on that so we can introduce that this week. Can somebody elaborate for me on the types of water system repairs and upgrades that the bond issuance provides?
Yeah, as Jeff said, primarily we're looking at water quality compliance type projects and infrastructure reliability projects. We've got continuation and an increase in our mainline replacement program, which I think is of particular interest right now. A lot of what we're looking at is pipelines and reservoir modifications to comply with 2 of the Safe Drinking Water Act requirements that are specifically relevant to us, which is the long-term 2 surface water treatment rule and the disinfection byproducts rule.
I understand the proceeds will be used in some cases to support groundwater recharge and installation of purple pipe. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be what we would call the water supply component, and that's also part of the capital program.
What does the purple pipe entail with the plan itself, and how much water do you anticipate that you can conserve from this type of installation?
What we have is in the plan going forward for the next 10 years is 50,000 acre feet per year recycled water to offset potable uses, and just to put that in comparable terms, we normally use about 600 to 650,000 acre feet a year, so that's a pretty substantial chunk of that. About 35,000 acre feet of that will be the purple pipe type landscape irrigation and industrial use type projects, and about 15,000 acre feet per year will be the groundwater recharge type project.
Would any of these funds be used to address the water main breaks in areas that have been most prone to leaks?
Yes, all of the mainline replacement programs that we're currently engaged in we're focusing on leaky pipes as one of our primary indicators of which pipes, the prioritization methodology that we have.
Yes, Mr. General Manager.
I just want to report to the committee that yesterday morning we had the 10 mayors from the urban centers meeting. There is going on in Sacramento right now what I call the great giveaway. They're putting together a $15 billion water bond, and we need to assert our interests that we need a big chunk of that money for just what we're talking about here. And I hope the city council will join in the effort to persuade those folks in Sacramento that the farmers are not the only people that need that bond money, that we are trying to go ahead in the next 20 years using the same amount of water that we're using now. Mm-hmm. In order to do that, we've got to invest in recycling and all these things, and there isn't enough money in our budget to do it fast enough. We need a big chunk of that bond money, and I just wanted to alert you to that issue, and I'm sure that the council will know how to let its voice be heard in Sacramento.
Mr. CLA.
Just so the committee knows, the council does have an official position with respect to the water legislation, and it's working with the mayor's office, so forth, on pressing our interests.
Yeah, and then you'll be coming back in a little bit to report on the Water Main Leaks Independent Task Force to give us an update on that, the last two adjustments that we made, and how much money's been spent, how much is left to be spent, and how much work we've been able to accomplish with the money that has been spent. Mr. Koretz, did you have any questions?
Yeah, well, you've partially asked the ones I was going to ask. One was on the water main breaks. I guess we had another one I just heard in my district again, this one on Mulholland, which I think is closed. Is any of this going to address in an on-target way what seems to be going on, particularly in the valley portion of my district? Because I don't know if there's a correlation between leaky pipes and the ones that seem to all be blowing up in pretty spectacular fashion.
Yeah, there definitely is a correlation between pipes that have leak history and the larger type failures, and that's one of the major factors that we're using to prioritize replacements. I do need to let you know, though, that for the month of October, we're below the normal average number of breaks. It's important to realize that a certain number of breaks is part of the operation and maintenance of the system. That's what happens. Just like on the power side, they have transformer failures and they get them fixed. On the water side, this is part of what we do day in and day out, and our crews have been working extremely hard to minimize disruptions and inconvenience. But we are doing much better this month than we had been last month.
Yeah, I think the question wasn't so much the number as the more spectacular nature, the ones that seem to be closing off major intersections and causing more significant damage seem to be cropping up more than usual. I would still say that even if the overall number this month are down. It seems like we can't go a month in my district without some major intersection, some major street being closed with a somewhat spectacular blow-up. So I hope you all are somewhat focused on that.
Absolutely.
My other question was on the purple piping. Where is that irrigation going? What are the kinds of places that we'll be looking at in the near future? Are these mostly parks or
Yeah.
Indian Islands, and what area geographically?
Well, one of the things that we do, a couple of the big criteria we have is proximity to a source of recycled water. So currently, our sources of recycled water are the LA Glendale plant, the Tillman plant, and Terminal Island. So we branch out from those locations. The biggest cost of this sort of supply is the cost of building these pipes. So what we try to do is maximize the delivery of water and build the minimum amount of pipe that we have to deliver the water. So we're looking at golf courses, schools, cemeteries, those sort of customers that are large landscape or cooling type facilities like LAX. We have some ability also near Hyperion through the West Basin Municipal Water District, which provides effluent for us to provide customers on the west side. So we're also working, we've added Playa Vista recently, and we're working with LAX to get some of their big industrial needs on Purple Pipe.
So it's mostly closer to the actual plant, so you wouldn't see it in some of the parks in West LA probably because it's too far away from those locations.
We're currently doing the master planning study that will, it's trying to optimize how much, maximizing the amount of delivery and minimizing the amount of pipe. So I'll have a better answer for you at the completion of that study. But yeah, West LA is probably one of the more distant areas to reach, just because there's no sewage plants around there. Although I got to say that we are looking at some innovative ways of potentially tapping into some of the larger mains and potentially extracting some of the wastewater out of that and building some satellite plants to treat it. If that makes sense in the area, we would do that if it makes economic sense to do so.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking of, because ultimately, at some point, we should be irrigating every large park and landscaping opportunity in the city with non-potable water to reach our goals. I don't see how we get there otherwise.
I would agree. We would want to do it as much as possible. It's a cost issue, though, and we want to be very cautious about how we expend the ratepayers' money.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions or comments. We don't have a quorum, so we're going to have to move this without recommendation.
Okay. Go ahead and just, I'll go ahead and repeat.
Communication.
Yeah, you can forward it as communication
Okay.
at this stage. And what I have is work with DWP to prepare a motion on certifying whether we got a competitive rate on the bond issuance costs, as well as having them report back on water main leaks when that issue comes back.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That was already, the water main leak report back was already in the hopper.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Next item?
Item number 5, report from Environmental Affairs Department relative to the status and implementation of the proposed city's Green Business Certification Program. Report from EAD.
Oh, thank you. And we also have a card from Becca Doughton. Why don't we have Becca come up first and speak? Oh, and Stephanie Taylor, why don't you come up too, and then we'll get a staff report. Stephanie Taylor here?
Yeah.
So Becca, why don't you speak, and then Stephanie, and then we'll get the staff report.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Council Member, I'm here on behalf of Councilmember Richard Alarcon. Today, who regrets he can't be here, but asks that I read a letter into the record that he also will be submitting. While I cannot attend today's Energy and Environment Committee meeting due to a family funeral, I did want to convey my strong support for the recommendations provided to the Energy and Environment Committee regarding the status and implementation of the Los Angeles Certified Green Business Program, including the selection of the Los Angeles Community College District as a recommended bidder to administer the Green Business Program. The Los Angeles Community College District is the ideal partner for this program because of the numerous locations within their network, their ability to provide both the educational and certification components of the program, and their proven commitment to the environment. Additionally, their partnership with Green Seal, a well-respected environmental certification nonprofit that is already working with the city's Green Lodge certification, and the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce will ensure that the program meets high environmental standards, and the city can have a strong partnership with local businesses. I introduced the motion to create the Los Angeles Certified Green Business Program my first day back to the Los Angeles City Council, and over the past 2 years, I've been working with my council colleagues, the Environmental Affairs Department, the Department of Water and Power, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, Green LA, and other advocates for the environment to help make this program a reality. The recommendations provided to the Energy and Environment Committee will allow us to move forward with the implementation of the program, and the recommended bidder has the expertise and skills to make the program a success. The Los Angeles Certified Green Business Program creates a positive incentive for local businesses to operate in an environmentally friendly manner by providing a green business seal, inclusion in a city database, and recognition as a certified green business. The program includes an educational component, which will help businesses learn how to meet certification standards, including how they can reduce energy and water consumption, increase recycling, provide incentives for employees to use public transportation, and many other initiatives will help business become certified green. Thank you for your previous support of the Los Angeles Certified Green Business Program, and I look forward to working together to make the program a successful component of Los Angeles's efforts to create a sustainable and environmentally friendly city. Yours truly, Richard Aldercone, Councilmember, District 7.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Taylor.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Stephanie Taylor from the Green LA Coalition. Good morning, Councilmember Koretz and Councilmember Perry. First, Green LA would like to thank Councilmember Alarcon and the Mayor's Office for their leadership on this project, and we'd also like to thank the Environment LA staff for moving this project forward to where we are today. The Green Business Certification Program has been a priority for the environmental community since 2007. And so we are pleased to express our strong support for the program and for the staff recommendations. However, I'd like to emphasize two things. The need for moving quickly to fund the program, both in order to expedite the water and new energy conservation practices to address climate change, and two, at the same time, aiding the survival of small and medium businesses and for protecting worker health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Good morning, Beth Gines, Assistant General Manager of Environment LA. We are very pleased to be here to report on the City of Los Angeles' Green Business Certification Program. And with me is Karen Christie, who is our Division Chief for Sustainability, in which the program is housed. This report has been a long time in the making. As Becca mentioned, it began as a council motion by Councilmember Alarcon and seconded by Councilmember Perry in 2007, requesting that we report back on a plan to create and implement a certified green business program. During the intervening 2 years, ELA, without funding but wanting to move forward on a program, formed a partnership with Green Seal and LA Inc., the city's Convention and Visitors Bureau, to develop the Green Hotel Certification Program as the first step in the city's Green Business Program. In August, the city certified its first green hotel, the Westin Bonaventure, and have 17 other hotels working toward their certifications. I want to note that the Westin Bonaventure made a $20,000 investment in retrofits in order to gain their certification. In return, they expect to save $225,000 a year from that $20,000 investment. With this sort of track record, we're extremely pleased to offer the opportunity to businesses other than hotels to green their operations, to reduce energy and water usage, to curb the emission of greenhouse gases, and to provide opportunities for all Angelenos to join the city's sustainability efforts. I want to thank the Department of Water and Power for providing one of the most important elements of a successful program, funding, for both the development and implementation of the new Green Business Certification Program. Department of Water and Power also participated in the review and selection panel for the contractor who will be running the program, and we thank them both for their assistance and their resources.
And the $150,000 that's being granted, how are you going to use it?
Karen is going to give that section report.
Well, I'll go ahead. The $150,000 in discussions with DWP, we intended that to be the initial funding for the selected contractor for the most part.
The salary expenditure then?
Right, and outreach materials, development of those.
Do you have your budget developed yet?
It's sketchy. Part of what we had wanted to do with the selected contractor was to finalize those details. The payment schedule that's included in the MOU attachment to the report, our MOU with DWP, leaves it where there's, once we do the RFP, once we select a vendor and get a draft plan for the Green Business Program that's more developed, DWP approves that, and then we're able to move forward with finalizing.
So DWP is going to approve your final budget?
Absolutely. We're working very closely with them.
That may be the only part of our ECAP that we ever get approved.
It's only $150,000, you know. It's going to come back to your commission then?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And inaudible, yes? Say yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. All right, so then tell me of the RFP that you released. What sort of responses did you get after issuing it?
We had about 50 people attend the bidders informational meeting. Based on that, we received 18 applications. Many of those, it seemed that they weren't able to provide a lot of the documentation. I think many had hoped to be sub-consultants, not the primary. So the ones that made it through the process of being responsive, submitting all the required city documents.
Out of that 18, how many made it through?
7. And we did the written reviews on those 7. We interviewed the top 3, and that took us to Los Angeles Community College District as by far the most able to do all of the components of the program that we hope to do.
And will they be able to use some of their students as, is this an employment opportunity for them too, a training employment opportunity?
Yes.
So,
and that really helped with their proposal. They have business development centers throughout the city at their locations. We had been speaking with them even when we didn't have funding, when we were trying to patch together a program. So they were very able to demonstrate that they could do the green jobs training, both for students and for the existing businesses and owners, operators.
great. Did you have any questions, Mr. Kratz?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm not closely familiar with this process, but I would say I am somewhat familiar with the community college district and its board, and they're very, very environmentally focused. They've been a leading entity in terms of green building and all their construction, and before it was as in vogue as it is now, and I think they'd be a great choice.
Thanks.
So with that, we don't have a quorum, so we'll move this as a communication.
As a communication,
Yeah,
correct.
that's fine. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Don't go anywhere, Freeman. You stay there.
Item number 6, motion Garcetti, Perry,
I
West.
like talking to you.
Request the Department of Water and Power, CAO, Community Development Department, and others to report on strategic plan for development of a Green Corps program and related matters.
And we do have one card while the staff is coming back. Is it Guy Lipa?
Lipa, yeah.
Lima? Okay. Can't read your writing.
Lipa.
Lipa.
Sorry.
All right. Go ahead.
I'm here on behalf of the Council President Eric Garcetti, who, celebrated his wedding this weekend, but really wanted this to move forward, so we wanted to make sure this got on the agenda. And I wanted to read this letter into the record. Dear Committee Chair Perry and honorable members, many utilities nationwide offer energy and water home efficiency audit services to their customers. It is important that Los Angeles Department of Water and Power consumers be able to review and analyze their usage in order to develop conservation strategies that are effective for them. While LADWP currently offers various efficiency programs, it is time to take the next step and offer a single, convenient, cost-effective service to decrease energy and water use through audits and direct install of energy-efficient technologies. A comprehensive energy and water efficiency program will serve not only as a convenient resource for Angelenos to go green while conserving their hard-earned dollars, but will also be an excellent way to create jobs and train workers. I strongly encourage the process to study and implement such a program to be completed as quickly as possible. Thank you in advance for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Eric Garcetti, President, Los Angeles City Council, Council Member, 13th District. I also wanted to just thank the chairwoman and her staff and all the members of the committee, the mayor's office, the CLA, and of course this fine gentleman sitting next to me, David Freeman. So, thank you.
Oh, you better hang on to that. Okay. All right, who's reporting? Anybody? Somebody? All right.
This is
You know what? They left you all by yourself. All right, why don't you do it?
Yeah, I'm very proud to be all by myself on this issue.
Okay.
If I could just make a personal comment for just a few seconds. I was the first person in the federal government with an energy responsibility, and I ordered the first energy efficiency action that this country ever took in a a message from the President to the Congress in 1971, in which he directed the FHA to require insulation standards in FHA financed homes. I'm the author of the first major study of energy efficiency by the Ford Foundation in '73, and then when I took over the Tennessee Valley Authority, I practiced what I preached. And we had a program with 300 what we called energy doctors that made house calls, and we built the equivalent of a nuclear power plant in insulating homes. So this is a subject that's dear to my heart, and it's of the highest priority as far as the DWP is concerned. I've only been there a few days, but we are now bringing together the efficiency programs on water and energy into one organization, so that when we hire people to go out and make house calls on homes and commercial buildings, they can inform the customers of both the water-saving opportunities and the energy-saving opportunities at the same time. And the program that we have in mind, I think, is exactly what this motion suggested, which is that these, you call them green ambassadors or green doctors, I don't care what you call them, but as long as we have people that can go out and have the expertise to advise our customers on what's cost effective on both the water and the energy side. And then all the customer would have to do is sign a piece of paper agreeing to do these things. The department would have a loan program where we would actually finance and help them pick the contractors to do the work, who would inspect what's going on so that we wouldn't pay them until we knew the work was done properly. And then the customer, out of the savings, would pay it back over time in their electric bill. That system will give us tremendous penetration. It will raise efficiency in this city to a new level of activity. And the beautiful thing about it is the people that we have to hire are right here in Los Angeles and will help bring down this horrible unemployment that we have. So this is a program you can go to talk about it in Sunday school or any place that you want to brag about something. And I just really appreciate the fact that we have a city council that is really interested in this and that will keep my feet to the fire. But give me just another 2 or 3 weeks where we've got the reorganization plan on paper now. And we intend to make this just as important, I might say, as our solar program or our wind program, because this is the cheapest way that we can get off of fossil fuels. Energy efficiency. It's less than 6 cents a kilowatt hour, while the renewable energy costs more than that. So we're going to give this the full treatment.
All right. So tell me what the status is of the program, how much it's going to cost, and where are we going to get the funding to pay for it?
So I can speak to, we've been working closely with the Joint Training Institute and DWP on some of this work. I have copies of the 4 major grants that have already been applied for, 2 of which have been successful, a Green Jobs grant for $1 million, which we're actually already in process on, LA Conservation Corps being, and the California Conservation Corps being the primary deliverers of the subsidized employment related to it. The second one is the Green Retrofit Grant, which has been received, another, again, for $963,000. And then there's 2 others, the Joint Training Institute, Department of Labor, $5 million grant, and the Pathways Out of Poverty, $4 million grant.
So these are all pending applications?
Two of them have been successful, the first 2, and the second 2 are pending to the Department of Labor.
So the first 2 are energy training and Pathways Out of Poverty?
No, the $2 million grants that came from the governor's office have been successful. The 2 that go to the federal government, they're all ARA dollars. So the thing I would underline.
So $2 million out of how much more do we need to go?
Well, we're going to see how much we can bring into the equation. But let me just say that this piece of work is about booting up the pipeline. But the holy grail is what David Freeman just talked about. Residential direct install.
I understand.
That's how we build.
Let me ask you a question. So we've gotten $2 million in already. and you're still seeking
10.
10.
But that's
So-
nothing compared to what the
No,
program needs.
that's not what I'm asking. $2 million will get you how far along?
It's going to get us somewhere around 400 subsidized employment.
How long time-wise will get,
It's going to be
enable
over
you to
18 months.
Okay. So within the context of the 18 months, then you're continuing to revolve or roll forward on seeking other sources of funding to extend yourself beyond the 18 months.
Yes.
Does that fully fund you for 18 months across the board with your operational costs and all that?
It funds a small operation, but again, this is really a seed money, and it's really about training individuals, getting them ready for the pre-civil service classifications at DWP. That would be the real program that we're hoping to see happen.
So this is a pre-program.
This is a seed program that doesn't come close to what we as a city are capable of doing.
So then if you get more money in, does it then morph from a seed program into the broader program itself?
It does. So the Joint Training Institute grant, which is the DWP's Joint Training Institute, there are 500 incumbent workers that are trained there, as well as 500 new workers that would be placed in these pre-civil service classifications doing this exact work.
Have you been able to work with the other city agencies that have an expertise in human services to develop your strategies for program financing?
Yeah, so working with personnel, and CDD is taking the lead on some of this work, but we really are counting on DWP to really drive this.
And what about the city's economic stimulus task force?
In the ad hoc committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fully aware.
Okay, and you're working with them too?
Yes.
Okay. Is the task force developing any programs separate and apart from this, similar track?
Yeah, so, there's the $2 million in the CSBG that's going to Rec and Parks for the smart irrigation program that could be seen as a similar part of this work.
Are they competing? Does that hurt you in terms of your competitive ability to compete for our money?
No, it does not. It helps.
It helps?
Yeah.
Because it shows we have, more activity going on?
Yes, and it creates matching funds. And then we have the weatherization programs moving forward, and DWP is playing some role in that as well. So there's a number of pieces of if you think of Green Job Corps, the only Green Job Corps that's called Green Job Corps is over at LACC using the initial $1 million. But Infrastructure Academy has also a kind of a core. Those are the only two that are operational on the ground right now outside of the summer months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Price, did you have any questions?
Yeah, if you had the program completely funded and built out, how many new jobs do we think we're talking about, and how many buildings do we think get assisted in this direction?
I'm going to say something. I don't know if I'm going to give you my best impression, but DWP would give you a much better impression. But my best impression is that the small business direct install, which had a total of, it was limited because it went through SCAPA. It was limited to lighting only in businesses less than 35 megawatts, and I believe it had somewhere around 180,000 was the maximum number of businesses, I think. Is that correct? Anybody here know? Yes. Right? And so it turned out 60,000 were billboards, right? So there was 120,000 was the maximum it could touch, right? And we actually have gotten up to 50,000. They've done the small business direct install work with, and that maxed out at 440 employees through SCAPA. The reason it was limited was because of, the issue about whether or not it could be done by our city union workers. And quite honestly, it could be done, and having these pre-civil service classifications negotiated makes the residential direct install, which isn't limited to a total of 180,000 or 120,000 businesses. It's now you're talking about 1.2 million ratepayers, all of whom could be part of this, and that's why those of us that see this work see it as the holy grail of doing a workforce development strategy related to an energy efficiency strategy. So you can extrapolate from what I'm telling you.
And Mr. Friedman, can you give me your take on that as well, your best guess?
Energy efficiency is as big a deal at DWP as solar power is, or wind power. And the beauty of it is all the jobs will be right here in Los Angeles, because that's where our customers live. And every building in this city is eligible for some additional efficiency measures. I don't think there is a home or a building that can't be improved. The limit is we're going to make investments up to 6 cents a kilowatt hour saved, so that it will be cost effective. But that is a huge opportunity for both jobs and for getting off of carbon and off of coal at the lowest possible cost. That's our mission. I mean, I'm down there in order to meet the goals that we've agreed upon at the lowest possible cost, and energy efficiency is my main tool, so that I would love to get as much free money as I can from all these grants and all, but quite frankly, we can't count on that, just as we can't count on getting enough tax credits to pay for all of the solar program or the wind program. It's just that efficiency is more cost effective. So the sooner we can ramp up our efficiency program, and I have to be candid and say that it's part of the Ecaf. Efficiency is that's where it's paid for, but it's cost effective, and it's more job intensive and lower cost than our renewable program. So I just hope we can get more stimulus money and more grants, but primarily it's going to be funded by these bonds that came before you earlier, except we're going to get more for every dollar a bond this way than any other way, and create more jobs in this city.
Thank you.
I have copies of the grants if anybody who wants them for their office.
Okay,
Okay, all four of them.
all right. With that, again, we don't have a quorum, so we'll move this as a communication. Council, thank you very much, everybody. This marks the end of our agenda. This is the time for public comment. For those items that are not on the agenda, I have 3 public comment cards. They are Dr. Williams, Larry Matsui, and Jeffrey Conaway. If you can come on up here. Larry Matsui, are you still here? Yes. Come on up. And then Jeffrey Conaway. Okay, great.
With the recommendations the CO has.
Okay, Dr. Williams.
I've already submitted a written form. Basically, yesterday, the Board of Public Works approved an unsourced expense of over $700 million for Bayona Creek area. It's based upon very poor development of the technical side, lack of knowledge of the bacterial side for the TMDL, which has to be submitted in draft next week. So why did they wait 6 months from the previous rejection of the same program for the entire basin until the last week before submittal? So it will be coming, maybe, but I don't know when. Nobody knows when. Nobody knew that it was going to come up until 3 days ago. Then they did not provide the documents in order to make a meaningful comment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Larry Matsui.
Good morning. My name is Larry Matsui. I appeared before this committee on March 24th, 2009, in connection with the awarding of a 20-year lease by DWP to operate the Crowley Lake Recreational Facility. I spoke in opposition of DWP's recommendation to award the lease to Crowley Lake Fish Camp, citing what I felt were decisions and actions taken by DWP during the RFP process that demonstrated bias and attempt to manage the outcome. This committee voted on that day to deny DWP's request and terminated the RFP. I'm here today to bring to your attention an incident that occurred at the lake facility involving Lane Garrett, the lake manager, and my partners, Jeffrey and Josephine Conaway. This incident was clearly in retaliation to the decision that was made by this committee on March the 24th. This matter has been brought to the attention of the Board of Commissioners and management of DWP with no meaningful response. I would like Jeff to provide the details of what occurred. Madam Chair, Jeff has submitted his own speaker card and would like to ask that you allow him his own 2 minutes for his presentation.
Yeah, he'll get it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Jeff?
Okay, great. Mr. Conaway.
Good morning, committee. My name's Jeffrey Conaway, and I'm here today to share with you an incident that occurred on April 24th at the Crowley Lake Recreation Facility. I was visiting the lake on the day before opening fishing season, and my wife and I were in the Crowley Lake Tackle Store talking to a vendor, when Lane Garrett, the lake manager, approached me and asked me to step outside. I accompanied Lane outside, and he proceeded to let me know that I was not welcome at the lake and had to leave the property. In order to avoid any further confrontation and escalation of the incident, I went back inside the store and told my wife that we had to leave. On our way out, we stopped at the entrance gate to visit some of our long-term friends. Almost immediately, Lane Garrett drives up in front of about 4 of our friends and begins to inform me that I am not allowed on the property, and he stated that because of the crap that Larry Matsui pulled in front of the city council and the letter he wrote, neither he nor I were welcome at the lake and will not be allowed on the property. I cannot believe that Lane Garrett has the power or authority to deny me the right to use the lake and its facilities that are open to the public. On May 5th, 2009, I brought this matter to the attention of the Board of Commissions and the management of DWP. I asked DWP to investigate this incident and take the appropriate action to prevent this from ever happening again. The board directed staff to investigate this incident and provide them a report. At that meeting, Martin Adams from DWP asked me to contact him, and I did so on May 6th. I sent an email to him to arrange a conference call between myself and Larry Matsui and Martin. That call happened on May 18th. I expressed my concerns and that I did not believe that Lane Garrett had the right to treat or discriminate against me or deny the use of the lake. On May 29th, I followed with another email responding. Martin responding let me know that he was in communication with Crowley Lake Fish Camp and informed Lane Garrett of DWP's position.
Are you almost ready to wrap?
Yes. There was 3 other follow-up emails and really no response from DWP. I'm here today asking that any intervention from you guys. This was a serious matter.
Yeah.
I'm a public figure for the Navy, and I was not able to use the lake at all this year.
Okay, Mr. Freeman, what do you say?
I will look into that, and I will give you a response. This is the first I've heard of this incident, and I feel fortunate to be here and hear this so that I can look into it and give you a prompt response.
Would you give Mr. Freeman copies of whatever you gave to the commission?
Yes.
And then why don't you come back and or just give me a buzz in 2 weeks and let me know how it's going. I know Mr. Matsui.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
I'm new to this whole issue. I've never heard about it before. Who is Lane Garrett, and why would he be in a position to prevent you from using the lake?
Lane Garrett is manager of the Crowley Lake facility, and Mr. Martin Adams supplied me with a copy of the lease terms. And in that lease term, DWP had pretty much every right for not treating the public properly as a manager or discrimination. I was expecting termination of him being a longtime resident going up to the lake for over 20 years. And just because we competed on an RFP, that the committee had made a decision to review and bring back to the table at a later date, not to be able to use public access.
Let me just say this, just on the basis of what I've heard, his conduct is outrageous, but there's always 2 sides to every incident. Now,
Why don't you as a general manager dig into it, get their contact information, and you go ahead and do your own independent review of the situation, and then Mr. Matsui knows how to reach me, so I can hear from him how it's going. You obviously, we see each other all the time, and let's give it about 2 weeks for you to put something together, and then if you want to come back during public comment and give me an update, that's fine.
Will do.
Okay?
Thank you.
And otherwise, we'll agendize it.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.